you can see, we are so incredibly grateful and excited to have with us today Monica Ellis, the bassoonist and executive director of Imani Winds. Can we just like woo? Because it's so funny. The pop stars of like classical music or like just music in general, like Imani Winds, you're there. Like and you, I mean, we'll get into that. But Monica, hello, hi. It is so amazing to have you here.
Thank you for having me. That's very kind of you to say. I appreciate that. Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm sure it's things you get told all the time, but you never deserve to hear any less than
Thank
so, well, I
you.
mean, we're a lot of us, and I'm sure plenty of our audience is so aware of the amazing work that you do. But just for maybe audience members who have not had a chance to come across your work or Amani Wynn's work, can you just let us know a little bit about yourself and the organization?
Sure. Well, thank you for calling it an organization, honestly, because over the years, that's exactly what it has become. It's so much more at this point than just a wind quintet. But of course, at its core, we are five musicians who have been together since the organization has been together since 1997, and there are two original members left, myself and the oboist Toyin Spellman Diaz, who have been there since the beginning, and the other three members, Mark Dover, our clarinetist, joined almost 8 years ago. Brandon Patrick George joined about 5 years ago, if that's right. Yes, I think. And then our newest member, Kevin Newton, the hornist, joined. He's in his third year now. So although we've had some turnover in the last 8 years, pretty significant considering there was no turnover for 17 years, I feel like what we built in those 17 years was so powerful and laid such a great foundation so that when the inevitable did occur, which was new people coming on board, we had a real core to us so that they were able to just kind of come into that rather seamlessly, in all honesty. And these young guys, they can play so anything, everything, whatever. So it's really a new band in many ways. It's a new ensemble, and all these years later, it's my life's work, Toyin's life's work, and we still feel like there's so much to give and offer and receive, because new people and new collaborations, new activities, new records, new initiatives are just always a part of it. But that's the present. The past is in 1997. Yeah, we formed this group based upon the idea of our original flutist, the ever famed, just a queen and of herself, Valerie Coleman, composer and flutist extraordinaire, who had the concept to put together a group of musicians of color that would make up a wind quintet. And that was her concept. She wanted to have it be a vehicle for her own music, for representation purposes, to show that we do this, that there's a place for people of color in not just classical music, because we know that, but in wind, specifically wind quintet classical music. So we all just followed her anywhere she told us to go. And here we are all these years later, with intact so many, not just initiatives, but really career markers that she had in mind that allowed for us to have a future. And that's a pretty big statement, but I think it's accurate. One was the legacy commissioning project that she initiated in our 10th year to celebrate composers of underheard voices, really, of course, of usually Black and Brown heritage. Our chamber music festival, which is now in its 13th year, so almost half the history of the group, which is a summer event, and we saw each other, Lauren, and during the summertime when we just were holding our 13th year at Juilliard. And those are things that we now continue that she initiated that are really, like I said, the legacy and the markers of the ensemble that allow for us to know to keep going. And so now one of the things we're doing that is really a part of our future is our own not-for-profit organization. So we function now as a completely 501c3 charitable organization, and so that's allowed for us to really grow exponentially the last 5 years, maybe really 4 to 5 years, and get a lot of funding for some of these projects that we never dreamt we could do. And so that is the future of the group, and I'm still enjoying the ride.
I mean, it's so beautiful because what you just laid out was lives. It was the lives together, but also as individuals, because obviously everyone who's been involved with Imani, past and current, have such rich personal individual careers as well. So it's just so amazing to see and hear how that has played over the years. And I mean, well, I'll stop. I'll let the boys ask something because there's
Well, thank
so
you. I
many
appreciate
things.
that. It's remarkable. It really is. And there's certainly a lot of groups, a lot, maybe not a lot, but several chamber groups that have a long history. I mean, Emerson is closing up shop at 45 years now or something like that. Our dear friends, the Orion Quartet, I just saw recently that they've clocked in 35 years. So a career can be had in this way. I don't think I thought this would have been mine, really, but it's just a few that do have the honor and privilege to kind of have this type of longevity, and it's really it is just that. It's really a privilege, and I never take it lightly, never.
As you were explaining the history, the past, the present of Imani Winds, and discussing the people coming in and coming out, and y'all had such longevity with 17 years. You build that foundation, you build those interpretations, you built those, like, how you feel the music, how you feel the releases, the attacks, the like
Mm.
breath and sound. So a nerdy question: when new personalities come in, how has that influenced your original set of like music that y'all did in their first 17 years? Do you still include that in your sets? I'm pretty sure you do, but like, has it changed and taken on a new life, a new breath, a new sound, because of those different personalities? And is there a mix of old and new, or is it completely new interpretations?
Right. Great question. Yeah, it is a mix of old and new. And yes, we do bring back that repertoire. It's so funny. I'm actually looking right now on my extremely messy desk and office. This is where the action happens. All of this and all of that. That's my son's desk over there. He's 9. But I I'm looking at a brochure for Alvin Ailey right now. It just happens to be here. My cousin is a dancer in the Alvin Ailey dance theater. So he's an extremely accomplished, amazing dancer, and he's been in the company now for 3 years. And I was looking at this. I promise, Michael, this will answer your question. I'm looking here. I'm looking, and of course, plan on going to their city center residency, which happens every year here in New York City. And I see some new repertoire. I see, of course, Revelations, which is their most iconic piece. I see brand new stuff that's world premieres, things like that. I see the All Ailey program, and I thought, wow, yeah, Alvin Ailey, the people that come and see this iconic, legendary 65 years of Ailey, legendary dance group, is still expect to see Revelation, still expect to see Cry. And even not things that Ailey himself did, but things that have been in the repertoire for, say, not 65 years, but 20 years, 40 years. So if we're remotely compared to Alvin Ailey, that's an honor in of itself. But conceptually, we do have a similar aesthetic in that there's still pieces in our repertoire that we want to play, even if we've been playing them for a very, very long time. And so when the new people have come on board, they want to play that stuff. We toured Valerie's Afro-Cuban Concerto, which was one of our early pieces from 2006 or so. We toured that all last year on a women's composers program that we established, we created, and the boys, you called them the boys, Lauren. That's funny. We said we Torian and I do the same thing. Yeah, they were super excited to play. They had not played it before. Meanwhile, we've recorded it. We played it, over the years, dozens, hundreds of times. And it was not new. Of course, it's still the same music. So the interpretation, they were looking to us really to say, okay, what do you do? Let's do this. I like that y'all did this on the record before. No reason to shake it up. But of course we do. I think the reason that we've been successful with changes in personnel is because we pride ourselves on an environment that welcomes that change, and everybody's voice is valid and should be heard, and it's not this, totalitarian environment that, musically speaking, that one person is in charge. Executive director, great, sure, whatever. That's a title, that's a hat, and I am like, I do run the ship. There's no doubt about it. But musically speaking, everybody's equal on the stage, in the rehearsal space. So with older repertoire, we enjoy it. We definitely keep it in the repertoire, but we're super excited to bring new stuff in too. In 24-25, we just established some brand new programs that is pieces that the majority, not 100%, but majority that none of us have ever played, and that's really exciting. Every year we have at least one new piece that's a brand new work. And so for the last 5, 7, 8 years now, we've been able to add that have that as an addition to the repertoire, and that's something that the original members didn't play. So it's a combination of it all, and I think I am excited always to know and hear what it is that they have to offer to the rep that Toyin and I have ingrained. And it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes you're like, but we did it this way. We're like, oh yeah, but no, we don't have to do it that way. So it's a bit of a balancing act at times, but a fun one. And I'm just ready to hear them, slay some stuff that maybe like we couldn't do back in the day, but they're so good that they can do it. Stuff like that. So a combination of all of that. Their input absolutely is vital to that very piece that we're in at that moment, as well as the longevity of it all.
Absolutely. I want to go back to something that you said of you didn't think that you would be here when you were younger growing up. And my question would be, what did you think that you were going to do? I read that you started bassoon in middle school, and then it just kind of took hold of you, and then you never let it go. So what did you think when you're then,
Yeah, well, right. You're right. Being a musician definitely was what I knew I would be. And I was just one of those kids that gravitated towards music right early on, middle school, high school, out. So I didn't think it was going to be anything else, but I guess I figured I would be in an orchestra. I came to New York City for my grad work at Juilliard, and then I did a postgraduate thing at Manhattan School of Music. And I think if I had ended up anywhere else but New York, I mean, any small pebble of a change in the line of your life has exponential differences on how things occur. It's the ripple effect. So yeah, if I had come to New York a semester later, then something wouldn't have. It's that Benjamin Button scene, where like every little scene has the differences that changes somebody's life. So everything happens for a reason. But I think coming to New York for my grad work allowed for me to switch the focus. It's not even the focus, but switch the assumption. That's the word. Switch the assumption that all I was going to do is be in an orchestra, because that's what we're kind of taught, and that's what we were taught back then. That's the route you take. You graduate from conservatory, from these amazing schools, and there's zero job security. You have no, you know, you're just out there, a big old sea and a little fish, and
Mhm.
you're just hoping for the best, like the rest of everyone else. But being in New York, that was the X factor. That was the game changer. That I was in a city, in a place that allowed for me to um still have the priority be about auditions for orchestras, because that's kind of the main uh, thing that we are taught, that you're just going to audition for orchestras and get that job.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, I was able to dabble in chamber music. I was able to do gig work here and there, or pick up orchestras. I ended up performing with this group called Absolute Ensemble, which is an acoustic electric um, rock band, a classical rock band, really. And it was forming pretty much at the same time. I have, as Imani Winds, where I have dear friends to this day that have been my friends since then. You know, from that group, we traveled all over the country, the country, and Europe and Eastern Europe, you know, places I would have never been able to go to. And then Imani Winds. So um, I think, to answer the question, it's a matter of, I didn't think I would do it simply because that's not what you're taught in conservatory
Right.
at that time. Thankfully, things have changed significantly. I mean, over the years now, of groups like us, really, and other startups, if you will, from the last 20 to 25 years, has shown that this can be a viable career option.
Mhm.
It ain't easy, but nothing's easy. Like, nothing's easy. Zero is easy. So you take that out of the equation anyway, right?
Yes.
Um, yeah. So I'm very, very grateful for being at that place at that time, and then that just really, you know, started me on the journey that I've been on all this time. And I love New York. I love that I am a New Yorker, not originally. My son is a New Yorker.
Yes. Yes. You
He
are.
was born here. I was not. But but yeah, you know, I love that New York is my home for all these years. It's an incredible place. It's dense. We're on top of each other. We get on the train. You know, you got to deal with just every kind of person you can imagine. Um, but it has a very intense energy, and it's giving me the life that I really enjoy and love.
I will say really quickly, like, I love hearing the story because to me, I hear you were open for any possibilities when
Yeah,
you ventured off. And I think, I mean, even today, a lot of people are put in a category of, are you going to be a performer? Then you only need to do orchestras or this, or are you going to be
right.
an educator? Or you're just going to go teach orchestra, band, choir. But there's so many other possibilities. And Imani Winds as a group, it's like the testimony of that, of like you can do something else as well. And I'm just,
Yeah.
your story really speaks to that. Anything can happen, and
Yep.
you could be in a completely place that you never thought about.
Yeah, no, thank you for acknowledging that. It's true. It's true. Just, and we say it all the time. You have to really leave yourself open and able to receive your heart and your mind, your spirit, while you're practicing your arpeggios. You know what I mean? Like, while you're in the shed, like saying laser focus, and because there's a time and place to be super, super focused, to be the best that you can possibly be at your craft. There's no shortcut for that. But in the other times, in the meantime, in between time, then
Mhm.
yes, allow for those opportunities that you wouldn't expect to enter into your space, because that can be life changing and game changing. Yeah, very good, very. Thank you for the testimony. I like that we're a testimony to that premise. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, in the age that we're in, especially getting out of this, we always say post COVID, but like I feel like that's always inaccurate to say post COVID. But
Right.
like in this
Facts.
in this place where we are, where it is scary, like people were losing jobs during this time, and there was not a lot of stability within performance. I wonder, like with your own students, do you feel like there's that same, because it seems like whenever you all formed, there was just trust that you just had in each other, and the trust that you had in the vision of the group, where you're like, we're just gonna see this through. We're gonna push, we're gonna work, we're gonna just try. And is that something that you see in your own students now, or is there a little bit of that like hesitation of like, well, like, I'm not sure there's a job for me, or I'm not sure if that's going to happen, or maybe that's like, I don't know if that was just a special thing that happened. I don't think see myself doing that. Like, what are you hearing from your students and from you do so many things with youth engagement, but what
Mhm.
is the climate surrounding that?
Yeah, another great question. That's a really good question. I think that there's the permission to have more options nowadays. So you don't have everybody just totally vying for the same thing. But at the same time, there are so many more talented people. I often say I would not have wanted to be I don't want to be a student now just because the competition is so fierce. And not to say it wasn't that way 30 years ago when I was in school. I mean, everybody was good back then too, but I just feel like this is the nature of time as time goes on. People more the landscape is more saturated, and so there's just more really good people at doing this one thing, playing the bassoon, for instance, that the opportunities are less. And so yeah, our students, my students that I encounter, I do try to encourage them to think, think what's the phrase, act locally, think globally, something like that. I think that's right. So, do what you can do in your own space. Again, really getting as good as you possibly can at what you do, but don't forget to think outside the box. Don't forget to talk to other people, engage yourself, be in different environments that might open up another opportunity, because the opportunities are just not as there. And like I was saying, there's just that many more people vying for those same opportunities. So we do have to figure out have more entrepreneurial mindset, figure out ways that will potentially allow for you specifically to have a career, have other opportunities that may not be applicable to anybody else. And yeah, the COVID times, I think did exacerbate that, because we had to figure out some other stuff. We were instantly shut off from what everybody was used to doing.
Mhm.
Done, right? So you either curl up in a ball and cry, which a lot of us did, or do that, but then okay, uncurl yourself, shake it off and get back to work, and whatever that does mean, it's going to mean something different. So it was really encouraging to see the video, the viral videos, and
Mm.
people really getting used to and acquainting themselves with recording processes or video. You all of a sudden, I got a home studio. Like, oh, I didn't know that was an interest to me. Podcasts,
Mhm.
just so many other ways to we found. It's funny you mentioned that your theme at Midwest is going to be community. And we found other ways to be in community, to find a community. It isn't only about location anymore. By no means is it. So we really kind of put the whole landscape on its head, and I think that's a good thing. Obviously very little good things came out of a global pandemic, when tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people died, and it's still here and still doing what it's doing. But if there was something beneficial from it, I think it allowed for us to just really look at things differently and think differently, to get the same point across. How can I do it and say it in this different way, and think about something in a different way? So we try to encourage our students to do just that. And for instance, when we teach at Curtis, which is an incredible opportunity, and they're so talented, and many of those young students there have a very focused orchestral, speaking of that, orchestrally minded career focus. And we try to be like, yeah, that's great. However, That job ain't gonna be there necessarily when you graduate because there's just the openings are there. So that's a small community. Of course, the Philadelphia Orchestra is right there, and it's a kind of a stair step to it, depending upon a lot of things, of course. But yeah, teaching chamber music in a pretty traditionally minded institution such as that has allowed for us to kind of break down a couple of these typical traditional mindsets, for young people to say, okay, well, oh wow, I can do teaching, I can do teaching. I would say it like I do music. Like that's a terrible way to say it, but you know what I mean. Like I can teach and perform. I can perform orchestra music and chamber music. I can be, I can do a lot of things. I can be an administrator. So anyway, yes, I hope that's kind of answering the question there. I might have went off on a tangent on that one. Sorry about that.
No, no, that was really great because I think sometimes we talk a little bit about that, how like the climate in the field is just insane, and it's never to say like it wasn't hard to like get a job back in the day, but we're saying like, do you know how many of us there are now, and do you
Right,
know how many of us are like going to school to specialize in this, this type of thing, because we have more funding in a sense from maybe where we were, not as much as we should, but maybe more than we were or did have. And so you're absolutely right. It's a bigger pool, and maybe not as much demand, should I say,
right,
for certain
right.
things
Yeah.
now, especially post COVID, as we're seeing with a few closures and dips in ticket sales and
Yep.
all this. So it's definitely a part of the conversation, but it's interesting to hear your perspective as a touring group, especially that you rely on that, right, to move around and see, and the fact that you need people to want you in those cities, which obviously they do.
Mhm.
But it's just always, this is a conversation we're always having. There's so many
Right.
nuanced little things about it.
Yeah, no, yes, yeah, all of those things. Yes, we need live music. Things have changed. How do we adjust? It's normal, but it's not. Yeah, it's all of the, all of the above, A through D.
I think another thing to just go on top of this newer generation is there's more access to certain things now that maybe wasn't there years ago, which is a great thing. Access is phenomenal. But especially for minority students, we finally have, ways to study music and to get a job in this. But from your perspective of coming up when before Imani Winds as a Black female bassoon player, was it ever one of those things of like, I don't see myself represented in an orchestra or chamber music? Do I even belong here? Like, will I be valued in these organizations as much as I have been longing to be in that space?
Mm-hmm. Well, to be totally honest, those questions did not come into my mind. And I know a lot of people of various generations have had these types of questions that come to mind. Like you're saying, do I belong? I don't see people that look like me. Where do I fit in? But I think for me at least, I was so fortunate to have such a solid background and upbringing with people around me, my parents, my sister, my family, immediate and extended family, teachers, really. And by the way, Black and white teachers, and Black and white friends for that matters, that just my church, that just pushed me up, held me up, and there was never a moment that occurred to me that I could not do something.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we were, we knew Black and white. We knew we was Black. We knew that we knew where we came from. We knew that we were a people that have been traditionally marginalized. I mean, we didn't. Now, Toya's family might have talking about marginalized people because she grew up with a lot of intellectuals. But we, her, her parents, she'd be fine with me saying that. But you know, us sitting around the dinner table was not talking about, yes, the marginalized community is really struggling right now. Like we was watching, you know, the Cosby Show and Family Ties, you know, in the
Yes.
80s, and I was just going about our time, but we recognized that our blackness was, you know, we were proud of it, and are, and recognize it as a part of our identity, but never in a way that, oh, okay, I don't see it where I want to be, therefore I can't be in that.
Mm.
You know, my mom, thank God, she'll be 87 in a few weeks actually, and she's in the best of health, you know, and doing really well. And she talks so much about her coming into her own adulthood in the 50s, being the only black woman in a number of circumstances. You know, her first job was she was the only black woman in, you know, just, you know, she worked for the telephone company, Bell Telephone in Pittsburgh, and in, you know, 1956, 57, when she graduated from high school, and she was the only black woman, but she was like, okay, that's a good job, and you know, it's going to pay my bills, and I'm doing this, and yes, I'm the only black person, but that's that. So, you know, obviously, I'm not saying, I don't want to put on rose colored glasses and make it seem like that, you know, everything was some utopia, but for my personal story is one that, um again, fortunate enough to be in an environment where I had such a great support system that it allowed for me to not even notice that I was the only, or the one of two, or the, you know, the one of three. um it wasn't until I kind of got older where people said, oh, that should be something you should be concerned about. And I said, oh, oh, really? Oh, okay, I didn't know that. And I, you know, at the same time, I don't want to speak flippantly about it, because I do know that, of course, as a people, we have faced, you know, from atrocities to minor skirmishes, to you know, the bigs and the smalls, and the lack of representation is major. And so I completely get that. And for many reasons, it's why we exist, Imani Winds, for that purpose. But you know, I think we should all just try to forge our own path as much as possible, as humanly possible. You want to see people doing the thing that you're doing, but you do have to then live your own life, and wherever that life may take you, and in whatever kind of circles you'll be in, I can only hope that we have the confidence and the, you know, the wherewithal to just be your own person. And yeah, if I'm the only one, I'm gonna be the damn best only one in this. And that's the bottom line. There is right. You know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Would it be great if there were two? Yes, but if there's not, so be it. And then next year, hopefully there will be two, because that'll be another time. But in this moment, I'm here. I'm who I am. I'm damn good. I've done the work. I'm working hard, uplifting my people. You know, it's you have to look at it that way, I think. Otherwise, you're waiting for Godot, you know, you're waiting for something to you're waiting for this magical sort of environment to exist that may not ever exist, and you might miss out on an opportunity. So I think it's important to reflect upon the idea of representation in these multiple ways, being realistic, but also just living your life and moving forward.
I will have to say, this brings up a great question in my head of how is the work-life balance in Imani Winds? Like, you have children, and you are this big famous touring star. You know, how do you cope with all of that?
Well, help. That's really the biggest word. Help, support, And with me, I'm a single mom, but I have a lot of help with my son's dad and my mom and my sister. So the same people I mentioned earlier, thankfully I do have a great support staff, a great support Freudian slip. That's what it really is. I'm basically like, okay, you need to pick up, I'm telling them what to do. Um, but no, great support system and people that believe in what you're doing, So yeah, I'm leaving my kid for a week or 5 days or 10 days, but he knows that what I'm doing is really important to me and I'm really good at it and it's important to other people. I hope, this is my hope. And so who he's here with are people that are loving up on him and giving him the support that he needs also. So therefore I don't feel like there's some lack when I'm gone, per se. Nothing like a mother, but still, person, person. So, yeah, is it easy? No, but I also consider that there's people that don't travel, but have, everybody works, and we don't have some sort of gilded life where we can just be at home and just wait for the
Right.
servants to make sure everything is going to work out. So yeah, you could be at home but still have a 9 to 9 job and not be able to spend as much time with your family. So everything is relative. And again, that I'm very, very, I know I'm so fortunate that if I'm working and if I'm leaving, getting on these planes and going to these different places, at least it's doing something that I really enjoy and feel passionate about. So it's like I said, it's not easy at all, but it makes it worth it. So yeah, like I said, help is the biggest thing. As long as I have the assistance that I do, and I'm grateful for that too. I know I have family
Mm.
that's right here in New York with me. My mom comes from Pittsburgh when I'm on the road, and then she'll stay here at my place, for weeks at a time. And so I do have a big support system
Yeah.
intact.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful to have, we call it here our village.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and it's just beautiful to see that no matter where you go into this career or field, as long as you have a great village behind you, you can accomplish many things,
Mhm.
many things.
Absolutely. And the village can come in different forms. Even if you don't have kids, your friend group is very, very important. And whoever you choose to spend your time with. And we even tell our students this, getting back to a question, sort of, Lauren, that you had, that about just communication with students. Pick your friends. Pick your friends. You don't need a bunch of friends. You don't need no 10, 20 friends, because they're not your friends. Like, that's not that important. Have a nice little 4, 5, 6 people that are a part of your part of your core group, because that's your boon coon, straight up group that's gonna tell you what's up. Um, and that way you can have like these really meaningful relationships, as opposed to sort of this fluff stuff that is quality over quantity, really is the bottom line. So yeah, that village is very, very important and good and important to establish too. And because we cannot function as some island out here by ourselves, in no way. Yep.
Yeah. Truly does take a village, and I don't know, it's really inspiring to see the work that you all are doing, and it's exciting to see the work as well just happening in the field, because especially when there's been so much loss um, in the past few years. So to see thriving organizations and people, seeing people excited, to see you all is exciting for us as well as the consumer. It's like, yay, people are like going out and seeing music and enjoying shows again.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
so like, what you spoke briefly a little bit about what's coming up next, but what else is coming up next for Imani Winds? What can we expect to see in the upcoming years?
Yeah, well, we're recording new music. In fact, today is we released our latest record in the last couple of weeks, and today is the first round of Grammy nomination for your consideration. First, voting, Grammy voting. And I don't know when the podcast will air. It will be, much later, I'm sure. So it could be over by then. But we are in the studio recording. We had two simultaneous projects this summer going on at I want the one that is now out and released, and another one that will be released probably next summer. The one that's released now is really a decades long passion project, which is entitled Passion for Bach and Coltrane, and it's an oratorio in many ways. Spoken word incorporates the words of a poet who happens to be Toyin's father. His name is A.B. Spellman. He wrote poetry. He's written, volumes of poetry, but what this is about is this imaginary meeting of J.S. Bach and John Coltrane, and what kind of music will be created. Well, our former French horn player Jeff Scott was really inspired, and the composer really inspired by this notion and the poetry. So some 10 years ago, he created evening's length piece that is for the quintet, jazz trio, and string quartet. And we performed it over the years now, and then finally recorded it this summer. Big project. It was very exciting. So that's an old one, but it's an old project, but a new resurgence of it because it's now out on the record, and the video itself is out, and it's on our brand new record label. So we just this year created our own label, and really a media company, aptly titled Imani Winds Media. And through our foundation, got some really great funding for it. And so this exists not only as a vehicle for our recordings for thus far, forthcoming, but others. We want to be we want people to come to us. Speaking of underrepresented and musicians of color, composers of color, we want this to be a place that they can come and say, okay, how can you be of assistance? So we want to put out emerging artists of color, emerging composers of color. So that's really the premise behind the label. And the media company it's evolving right now. We're figuring it out ourselves. It's brand new, but we envision it being a mentoring type of place. We possibly envision some podcasts happening. That's Toyin's baby. We see it. Everybody got a podcast, in a good way. Like, these are conversations to be had. So the media company is big, and then just looking at different collaborations. We are going to be doing some work with Michelle Can, the pianist, Terrence Wilson. Actually, we are performing with pianist Terrence Wilson coming up in a couple of weeks, namely at the 92nd Street Y here in New York City. So that's a great concert, of course, legendary concert venue. We've never played there as a group before, so that's going to be great. We're doing next season, we're collaborating with Boston Brass, which is a chamber group that's been around for a long time. They're our buddies. We did some other stuff with them some time ago. The great Arturo Sandoval is writing a double quintet for the both of us. And then, we like I said, we pretty much commonly each year have some type of world premiere piece. So every year, one way or another, we try to bring new music to the fore. With Michelle, composer Viet Cong is going to write a sextet for piano and winds. Sean Okekbolo is writing a quintet that we're going to premiere at the Kennedy Center in April. So it's pretty fun. In fact, it's funny because we were just talking about, so the other big recording project we did was the music of a composer named Andy Akiho, and brilliant steel pan player, and he's just bananas. It's so good. So Mark, our clarinetist, Mark Dover, he was in the studio with Andy, And anyway, long story short, we said, well, the record's probably going to come out. We recorded it this summer, but we had the Passion coming out first. So we have to stagger the releases. So it probably won't come out till next year. And then we said, well, we want to tour it next year, tour the collaboration, because we play with him as well as our own stuff. But we got all this other stuff already happened in 24, 25 that we are now looking to 25, 26 to tour Andy. And, I was like, oh, but the record will be out. But then we realized it's kind of nice to have 2 years in a row of, 2 years in advance, rather, to know what you're going to be doing. And that's kind of the case, but we have to know at least 1 year in advance. Rarely have we known 2 years in advance. So to have all of these great special projects kind of in the chamber, ready to be released, is very, very cool. And then the festival will keep going each year. We've come back to Juilliard, which is really exciting. We were there in our early years, but went to Mannes, even went up to Manhattan School for a year, now back at Juilliard. So continuing to do that each summer, and having that be sort of a real home base, because people rely upon it. They know it's coming up. So yeah, there's always something happening with Imani Winds.
Y'all are booked, busy, and blessed. Like y'all are all three of them. Okay.
Yes, I love it.
So the last thing I will have to ask, because as a person who have listened to all of your music and everything, I always wanted to know, is there a website or database where I could go say, I heard Imani Winds play this, I need the sheet music for this pronto? Is there a collection of that, or probably Googling, schmoogling things?
Yeah, the Google schmoogle, right. Valerie and Jeff are, again, our founding flutist and founding hornist. They have their own publishing companies and websites, and so whatever they've written, they kind of handle their own. They definitely handle their own music. So you could always Google, yes, Valerie Coleman, or Jeff Scott, the music of Jeff Scott, and find the scores there. And other than that, though, you can always just email Imani, info@imaniwinds.com, if there's a question about any particular piece that somebody wants to play. But if you know the composer, if one knows the composer, the composers, they own the music. We interpret it. We get it. We interpret it. We have the rights to it for a couple of years, but then it's out there. For instance, our piece on our Grammy nominated, our second Grammy nominated record from 2 years ago, a piece by Brina Esmail, beautiful work entitled The Light is the Same. A lot of quintets are playing that now. We premiered it, but it's kind of been out there for these last good 6 years now, I think, maybe even longer, maybe more like 8 years, because I think we premiered it with before we changed the personnel. So we see that in circulation, which is great, and you can get the music from Rena herself. So yeah, the internet is a wild and wonderful place. So usually, whatever you're looking for, it can be found. But I like to credit ourselves. We credit ourselves on being an approachable and communicative organization, and know that whatever we're doing is only really successful because of that communication with our fan base, with our support teams and people that really want to know about what we're doing. So yeah, you can always write us and we'll write you back. Probably me.
Perfect.
Well, I mean, what a treat this has been for all of us, because like I said, I'm used to seeing you on a stage, and so now having this where it feels like we've really gotten to have a conversation with each other, I'll be forever grateful for this and for your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, next year I'll be celebrating my 50th birthday too. So that's what's going on next year too.
Oh, well, that's a big one. That's a big
one. Yes. Yes,
Oh,
Toyin had hers last year, so in 20, I guess this year, 23, earlier. And we're both born in January, so hers was at the beginning of this calendar year. Mine is coming up in January of 24.
So a
So
big
yeah,
year
that's
coming.
keep it coming, right?
Yes, keep it coming. Yeah.
like we wish you all individually, but as also as a group, many, many, many more years of just happiness and just art, because that's it. I love it. I love to see it. We all love to see it. And we're just all so excited. I can speak for myself and the boys to say we are all very excited to see everything that's going to come out in the next few years for you all. So
Thank you.
thank you so much. We'll make sure to, I mean, y'all already know where to find them, but we'll make sure to have the
Right.
links to learn more and see more about Imani Winds. We hope this episode was inspiring to you as our audience. And you better, if you haven't listened, go listen right now. Oh my, you don't even know. You don't even know what you're about to get into. Like, I'm excited for you. But
And
Yes.
then if you can watch them, I'm telling you, like at Midwest, when I first saw Monica, I swear I was like, I want to switch to bassoon. The way you walk in there in your blue jumpsuit and you said, "This is my chair. This is my bassoon."
I did have
And
that blue jumpsuit on. I remember.
And you was
I'm
rocking
telling
it.
you, and you were getting. I said, That's my spirit animal right there."
I'll take it. I'll take it. I love it. I love it.
awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much. I had a good time talking. Thanks for inviting me, and much success with the podcast as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll see y'all next week for another great episode. See you then.
Woohoo.
Bye.